All right, it's showtime. Hey, welcome back. It's another beautiful day in paradise. And hey, this is the Unbridled Living in Costa Rica podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about location, location, location. Now, most of the time when you hear that, what are you thinking?
I don't know.
Deer in headlights. I don't know.
I'm
No,
thinking of selling your place.
most of the time when you're thinking location, 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 you're thinking business. And you know what? Just cultural side note. Location doesn't matter when you have a business in Costa Rica for the most part. But today we're not talking about that. We're talking about different locations where you might choose to live in Costa Rica. And you don't want to miss out because I tell you what, you don't want to make the mistake so many people make when they choose the location they choose, whether it's the beach, the mountains, the city. They choose a location because, well, they've been sold Costa Rica, right? And then they're there for just a little while. I mean, some people are there less than a year or two, and then they're heading back to where they came from with their tail tucked between their legs. So you don't want to miss out, and you're going to learn all the facts. You're going to learn the truth because, hey, this is the only channel giving you the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we're going to discuss the pros and the cons of the different locations based on our perspective because we've been all over the place. But heck, if this is your first time here, who are we and why in the world would you want to listen to us anyway?
We've been here for 13 years.
Has it been?
No, since 2013 for
Lying
11.
already.
10 years since 2013.
We've been here for almost 11 years, but we've lived in over 25 different locations, houses, So, you've got people in YouTube channels and they're trying to be helpful. But hey, look, if you only lived in one place and you've been there your whole time, well, all you can tell people about is that one place. Okay. And so it's, even if you've come to Costa Rica, man, I visited Costa Rica 15 times. Well, until you live here, you don't really get a feel for it. So we've been here for a long time, been in a lot of places. And so we're going to share our perspective. And look, it's our perspective. You don't have to agree with us. You're going to find out when you get here. But by learning will help you to be prepared so that you don't make that kind of mistake and you don't end up leaving. Because next week, we're going to talk about why do people leave after just a short time of being in Costa Rica. So anyway, before we get on it, what's been happening on the off-grid homestead?
Got a lot done this week.
I did get quite a bit done this week. I was able to really stay focused. So you know what? Why don't we just show them what's been happening?
So I want to frame up this side of the house, and I've started building the frame. Now this is the bottom right here, and up here is the top. And you can see I'm getting ready to weld the track. So that's the track for the doors to slide. So I'll have 2-foot doors that slide both to the left and to the right. All right, so I have it up there and it's looking good. I have to weld it. This is the last part. So as you can see, got some big long windows. It's about 6.5 foot. That's gonna be over there on that side, sliding door right there. So got it all framed out, and I built me a little deck right there. So this is where the office is gonna be at. That way I can have drawers right here. So great big huge outdoor porch right here. It's gonna be covered. Walk up on the porch, take your shoes off, open up the drawer, put it right in there. So we're getting real close. Now I can actually, now that I got it framed up, I can actually finish these windows right here. You see there's the trim, and I didn't have trim in this window. And of course I didn't have it in this last window. Now you'll notice that right here, well, there is no trim in that window and there's no trim in this one. And that's because that's where the sliding glass or the sliding windows go. And now it's time to get everything painted, so in hopes to go and get glass. Yay!
And as usual, I apply primer on everything, and then after that dries, come back with a couple of coats of flat black. It really is starting to take shape and look good. And now it's time to go to town and get glass. But that is a lot easier said than done.
When you're doing construction or buying just some things in general in Costa Rica, things are different. While Costa Rica can be absolutely phenomenal, you have to understand that everything takes longer. For example, I'm here at this glass shop and I'm just simply trying to buy some glass for my house that I'm building. However, when I come here, in most cases, no matter where you are in the United States, you want to buy glass, you give them your measurements, you can pick it up right then and there. In Costa Rica, that's not the case. I give them my measurements, they give me the price, they don't have the glass on hand, I'll have to wait almost a week. Just understand, Costa Rica is absolutely wonderful, but things are different, and it always takes a little bit longer in Costa Rica. All right, so, I was just trying to get some parts. As you can see, I got this lawnmower blade, and man, I'm hitting stumps and rocks all the time, bent my blade. So I just went to go get another blade. Keep in mind, things are expensive in Costa Rica. And you know what? I went down the street, got this blade here for only 12,000 colones. But before I went there, well, I stopped at the place right behind me. And is gringo pricing a real thing? I went back here behind me and I wanted to get 2 blades. I always like to have an extra. They wanted to charge me 36,000 colones. What? You're talking about over $70 for 2 lawnmower blades? No way. I just walked right on down the street and I got one. I was going to get 2, but he didn't have but one, 12,000. So, hey, 2 times 12, that'd have been 24,000. So do I want to pay 24,000 or do I want to pay the gringo price of 36,000? Yeah, gringo pricing's real. So you go to places where it's parts and service, they can name their own price.
But let's focus on the positives. Every morning, Nikki and I walk to this beautiful waterfall. It's a great place to read my Bible, meditate, and, well, every once in a while get a little surprise. Seems Rebecca walked to this waterfall and left me a message. All right, what do you guys think? Do you think the rocks love me or what? Man! All right. Hey, and in case you can't read, and Rebecca reminded me, you didn't tell them who we were. I said, well, they can read right there. Can't you see? Anyway, I'm Alan. That's my co-host, Rebecca. And like she said earlier, we've been here since November 2013. And we have just traveled all over Costa Rica, and we love to share our perspective. So today we are talking about location. But hey, just a couple of quick pointers there. I like to just film real quick some of the things that happen in town. I think it makes a great short, and it kind of helps keep things real. Because that one place that I went to go get the lawnmower blades, here's what's crazy. I've been there before, and I bought 2 lawnmower blades there before. But so you got to wonder, I'm always wondering, they didn't charge me the gringo price before. Why did they charge it this time? Well, the last time I had actually gone to the first place, they only had 1 blade. And so I bought, I don't think I even bought it, but they had 1 blade. And I said, well, I'll just go down. Well, you know what? They had a blade, but it wasn't quite the right size. So I walked down the street, told them that, hey, I need 1 blade. And so when they got out the blade and I asked the price, okay, they told me, and then I got 2, okay. And I can't remember what the price was then, but this time, so I want you to learn from this experience. This time, I just walked in there because I'd been there before. Now, obviously, they don't recognize me. Maybe they do. But I walked right in there, handed him that old blade. It's all bent up and said, I need a blade. He looked at it. He found the blade. I said, give me 2. I never asked what the price was. I just said, give me 2 blades. The same lady that was there last time, she rings it up and says 36,000 colones. And I'm like, you must be crazy. I didn't say that. That's what I was thinking. And I just walked out. I'm like, no way, And of course, you should have seen the look on their face. They were like, anyway, I walked out, just went down the street, and I got one at the regular price at a more reputable place. But it's something that's very important for you to think about. And we're going to be talking about that as far as location. Is one location, are you more apt to be gringo price in one location than you are in another? Well, we'll find out. So, hey, let's talk about some of those things. So, hey, before we get into it, a lot of people, well, they're doing research on Costa Rica, and you will see a lot of videos showing the beaches, and it's pretty amazing because in the United States, there's a lot of places you can't buy beachfront property. For whatever reason, it's all sold out. And if you were to buy some, it's crazy high. Costa Rica, you can still buy beachfront property and at a decent price. So a lot of people immediately, I want to live on the beach, and they buy beachfront property. Some people they don't care less, and they want to go to the mountains. And so I think, in my opinion, most people, if you're a foreigner coming here, you're going to normally live either in the mountains or on the beach. Okay. And there's a few people that actually live in San Jose, which is shocking to me. I would never want to live in San Jose or that metropolitan area. But keep in mind that the San Jose metropolitan area, if you're used to living in Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, you're used to living in Los Angeles, New York. Well, living in San Jose is a walk in the park, So I can understand why some people would live in San Jose metropolitan area, because look, there's people in San Jose metropolitan area who still have chickens in their backyard. Some even have. Look, we have been in San Jose right next to Walmart, and cows were walking on the highway. So the city of San Jose is not quite like New York or Los Angeles. So I can see why. But anyway, tell me, where is your favorite place? Go ahead and put it in the chat box. If you were going to move to Costa Rica tomorrow and you had the money, where would you immediately buy? Would it be on the beach? Would it be in the city? Would it be in the mountains? Somewhere in between? I'd like to get your input. So go ahead and put that in right now. I'd like to know. Now, just from our perspective and from what I've seen, where do you think most people, as soon as they go to Costa Rica, what do you think most people live when they come to Costa Rica?
Live?
And what do you think the majority of people immediately move to when they come to Costa Rica?
I'm guessing the touristy beach places.
A lot of people go to the touristy beach places. But why is that? Okay.
Well, those are advertised a lot. I guess they're known.
They see there's a lot of, whether it be YouTubers, whether it be realtors, there's a lot of, like you said, advertisement. There's a lot of footage on places like Uvita, Playa Coco, Playa Grande. There's all kind of, Tamarindo,
Santa Teresa,
Nasara. So you got all of this information. And so people will tend to, that's all they see. So they will go to those places. And let me tell you something. Write this down. If you go to those most popular places that you see on YouTube, you're going to almost for certain pay twice as much. You're going to always get ripped off. You're going to pay too much money. And why is that?
Because that's generally how they operate. They ask for twice as much as they'll accept a lot of the times.
Well, and then the fact is that when you go to a place where there are a lot of expats, that always drives the price of property up. Okay. And so it's a desired place. Like there's one place here.
But the beaches are
always going to be extremely expensive. And it almost always has, not every beach. Like there's a hidden beach in Esturios. That's a beautiful beach. And it's not jam-packed with gringos.
Yeah. Playa Seguro.
There's lots of beaches. Okay. So, so you want to be careful there. So let's take a quick look there, because Pam says, hey, if money were no object and I could design my perfect place, I would live on the mountain for cooler temperatures and be able to see the coast. Okay. So I'm glad you said if money was no object, because there are places where you could actually, there's these low mountains, especially as you're going past the Dominical area. There's these low mountains where you could easily see, when we're talking about the beach, we're talking about white water versus just you see water, right? So there are some of these low mountains where you can actually see the white waters hitting the beach. And so those are some perfect places. But like Pam said, if money was no object, because those places, those lots are kind of high, real high, But what is that real popular place? It's on the tip of my tongue. Tinamaste. It's a gringo hotspot. However, what a lot of people don't know is that they go there buying property in Tinamaste because it's 30 minutes to Dominical, 30 minutes to San Isidro. It's a great place, and they have ocean view. But that ocean view is more like sky view, because you sometimes during the day you can't tell whether you're looking at sky or ocean. There is no white water. You don't see no white water tumbling on the beach. And so but prices there can be crazy high too, because it's like,
it's
you
a
got
peekaboo.
ocean view.
Yeah, a lot of times it's just a peekaboo. And you got to think about, if anybody buys the property just below you, let's say, and they let their trees grow up, or they build a 2-story house, and then there goes your ocean view.
Yeah, that's right.
Your peekaboo of
the peekaboo of your view is gone. But what you don't know, and what maybe even Rebecca doesn't know, there's actually a law in Costa Rica where if you buy a piece of property and you have a view, then the guy who's below you cannot block your view. Legally, he can't block your view. That's right.
That's great.
So
how'd you find that out?
Well, I've been doing a lot of stuff. I'm on a lot of projects. So the guy in front of you supposedly not supposed to block your view. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay. So, and of course, hey, Pamela says that's one of the reasons they kind of like the Tinamaste area, and the Tinamaste area, it's up high in altitude. So it's very cool, close to the beach, but about 6 months out of the year, it's very, very cloudy in the rainy season. So you will have zero ocean view. Matter of fact, you have zero back porch view.
I know.
I know. Clouds get so thick you can cut them with a butter knife. Okay, but so you get a lot of clouds depending on the altitude. But anyway, that's something good for you to think about. Now, Shannon says that, hey, he would like to be in the mountain areas around San Isidro. Matter of fact, that's what Randy said earlier. And in my opinion, San Isidro, and I should stop saying this. Rebecca keeps telling me all the time.
I know, because that's where I would be.
Rebecca says, you got to stop telling people about San Isidro. Man, it's going to get so many expats there. And
it's growing. I go in Walmart now, and I hear all these English-speaking people. I'm like,
Rebecca's trying to go to Walmart.
Texas?
Rebecca's going to Walmart incognito, man. She got sunglasses on, big old sun hat. You don't want nobody to recognize her.
That's not true. No, but it's funny to hear so many English-speaking people. It used to be that there were just a handful.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, anyway,
and what's funny is, I was joking, but when we went to Texas for the 4th of July, and I was in a Walmart around Pasadena, there were so many Spanish speaking people. It's like I didn't even hear English going on, and I'm like, okay, this is weird.
Yeah, go to the United States where we're from, and there's more English. Some places there's just so many Mexicans there, and a lot of Latinos. So anyway, it is kind of funny. Come here and you don't hardly hear any English. Or anyway, it is a lot of fun. It's kind of the roles have switched on us. But anyhow. But let's talk about some of the pros and cons of each of those places. Okay. So, I'm going to come up here, because I saw Costa Rica Expax says that one downside is that living in popular tourist areas can get expensive. Okay. As a local, I'm seeing how, and of course, Costa Rica Expax, this is a Tico who has this group, I suppose. But anyway, he says he's a local. And he's seen how prices can rise, especially in places that attract a lot of visitors. And absolutely. So, as we're talking about, the beaches, the mountains, the city, let's just name some of the, let's talk about some of the pros. Well, now let's talk about the cons first. I always like to end on a good note. So if you're going to be living at the beach, so hey, if you got a notepad, write down, beach, mountains, and city, and we're going to list some of the pros and cons for you. So immediately, one of the cons of living in these popular tourist areas on the beach is exactly what Costa Rica for Expat says, that it's very expensive. You're almost always going to pay double for anything. You know, whenever I stayed in Jaco for about 6 months, or Playa Hermosa, while I was doing that huge house job over there, okay? I'm talking about everything, rent almost to a beer. Everything cost almost twice as much. Everything was just crazy, crazy high. And it's simply because there's lots of tourists there. Now, I asked a question. Is one place more apt to get the gringo pricing than another? So would you be more apt to get gringo pricing in the mountain areas versus the city versus the beach? Where do you think you might possibly get more gringo pricing than, or do you think it would be the same everywhere? Y'all give me your input. What do you think, Rebecca?
I think in where there's a lot of tourists, they tend to not do the gringo price for tourists, like people that are just there because they're wanting to keep the good reputation. But if you happen to maybe end up living in the tourist area and you have to go do like car repairs or get somebody to work on your house or something like that, then you might end up getting the gringo price.
So I think I kind of disagree, and I agree with some of what Rebecca said, because after living in Jaco for over 6 months, I quickly found out. And what I'm finding out is, like, you know, we go somewhere, and remember whenever we
but wait, in the mountains, like where they're not used to seeing a lot of tourists, I find that if you are a tourist in the mountains,
you're gonna immediately
you get the gringo price. It's like it's the reverse.
It's almost in reverse.
Yeah.
Huh?
So on the beaches, the popular beaches, I'm not talking about the you know, like
the popular beaches. Like if you're gonna end up over in Tamarindo, right?
Right.
If in Tamarindo, I mean, you got tons and tons and tons of tourists down there all the time. Uvita, a lot of tourists. Dominicana, lots of tourists. And so if you're there, you think you're gonna get the you think those tourists get the you don't think the tourists get the gringo price much?
It's like already gringo price. It's not. It's
it's
the tourist.
Everything is expensive,
it's the
right?
tourist price, right?
And so
it's a tourist town.
I think I might agree with you some there, but here's what I did discover.
It's like the meals are expensive, but they're expensive for everybody.
Right.
For Ticos spend their vacation at the beach.
Ticos don't want to go to those popular gringo areas because it's so expensive. But you know, whenever I was in Jaco in that touristy area, I found out, and like you said, man, if I went to go get my car fixed, I mean, I had my windshield wipers wasn't working right, and this guy wanted to charge me $800. I'm like, dude, do I just look stupid? You know, I mean, don't answer that question. I mean,
I think they just pick a number out of the air.
Well, they do. It's kind of crazy. So, and you know, Shannon here agrees with you. He says if you're in a tourist area, you're already getting the gringo price.
That's what I was saying.
You know?
So it's not like they see you coming. They're used to, you know, it's already priced for tourists.
Everything is already way expensive for tourists in that area.
And they're not going to just single you out, except maybe at those little side shops.
Yeah.
Now, don't go in and say, oh, I absolutely love this dress. I've got to have it. How much is it? Man, they just see some dollar signs.
They see dollar signs coming. He's like, oh, dumb tourist boy. We think to make some money on her. So, you know, so when you go to the touristy areas, if you are going to any of these little, now keep in mind, when we're talking about the gringo price, if you go into a reputable grocery store and there's barcodes and stuff like that, you're going to pay the regular price.
Just like with auto parts and stuff. That's why we go to Gaso
Tico, you know, or the big, you know, because if you go to a reputable place, you're not normally going to get the gringo price. Now, if you go to a shade tree mechanic, you're going to get the gringo price because he doesn't have prices on anything. But those huge gas stations, well, there's prices listed in the computer, and that's the price you're going to pay, okay? But, you know, you just have to really be careful where you're at. You know, it's kind of like I went to the little lawnmower shop. There's no prices on anything. They saw a white gringo walking in saying, give me 2. So, you know, this is the gringo math. 1 + 1 = 3. You get 2, but we're going to charge you for 3. Because if you can afford to buy 2, you got too much money. That's just the way I see it, you know.
And you're walking in not even concerned about the price. You've already decided you're going to buy it. I told you not to do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. So you got to be careful.
And then something else I was thinking about whenever, you know, another video back, somebody was saying it's really not that expensive. So it's perspective. If you're coming, it depends on what country you're visiting from. You know, if you're coming from a country that a meal in a restaurant is normally $50 per person, well, 25 over here is not that bad. But when,
Right.
you know, so it depends on where you're visiting
Ex-
from. We're
ex-
used to paying about $25 when we go out to eat in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, depending, it's exactly what you said. So it is perspective, right? I mean, if you're in Los Angeles and New York and stuff, you probably pay a lot of money. I mean, your son pays a lot of money when he goes to eat.
Yeah.
And he tips big time, okay? And so, and while we're talking about that, you're in a touristy area, you know, United States, we're trained to tip, 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 tip. And what most tourists don't know is that tip is already, you know, your mandatory tip on every meal that you have, okay? Because Ticos don't tip. You know, ask any Tico. They're
but in the tourist areas, they've come to kind of
not Ticos. Ticos don't tip.
I know, but I'm saying
in the
touristy areas, the waiters and, you know, the servers and stuff have gotten used to people tipping
Well,
them.
yeah, they've gotten used to people tipping them, but
it's not required.
You know, no, it's definitely not required. So anyway, I would definitely let you, you know, you definitely want to be careful. And it's like what Costa Rican expats say right here.
It is required because it's in the.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're forced
on
to pay.
The receipt.
You're going to pay the 10% tip.
So an additional
and a lot of
tip.
people don't know, and so they're tipping what they normally would tip in the United States, and so they're getting double tipped, you know, and don't know it. But anyway, Costa Rica expats, who is a Tico, says the gringo price is a real thing in Costa Rica. While locals, the local Ticos, know the fair price, visitors might find themselves paying more for goods and services. So it's always good to do your research to avoid the gringo price. And he's exactly right. And it's like, you know, Rebecca says, never go and say, give me two. Always ask the price like you're only going to buy one. And you can say, okay, well, this place has it for this much. This place, do your research. Otherwise, you are going to pay too much.
Same with services. You've been guilty of this. You've done it so many times. Somebody comes to repair something or whatever, you just assume they're going to charge you a fair price.
I just assume they're going to be honest.
And then at the end, you're like, okay, how much do we owe you? And it's like crazy.
And it's like $1 million. And I'm like, well, how about $500,000?
No,
so anyway,
always get the price.
So we were talking
we're talking about location.
Right. We were talking about the con. So, okay, so we talked about it can be very expensive. You can get gringo priced in these touristy areas, really worse than any other place. And look, it's not just getting the gringo price from the locals. So in Jaco, there's this one place called Auto Tica. Hey, look, you know, and I'm a firm believer that if I know somebody that's reputable, that is honest, I'm going to refer you to those people. Well, if I run into somebody that, in my opinion, is dishonest, well, I'm going to call them out because I want to make sure that you don't use them. So, hey, there's this one place, Auto Tica. It's in Jaco. A gringo owns this place, okay? He went to the same church I went to. And guess what? He tried to charge me way, way, way too much. So a gringo will gladly give you the gringo price, okay? So, hey, stay away from, his name is Don, stay away from Auto Tico. Because in my experience and a lot of the reviews, you know, about his shop, guys try to charge too much, too much, too much, too much, too much. So look, I don't have any problem calling somebody out. And I'm not going to, you know, flat out call them names. I'm just going to tell you, hey, from my experience, I was getting conned big time. Okay. And so anyway, you just need to be very, very careful where you go. Hey, here's a real good question. So Adam asks, Alan, have you successfully ungringoed any price through protest? No, I won't haggle. If I know I'm getting a gringo price like this lady was giving me the gringo price, I look at them and I have said, that's the gringo price. See ya. And I walk out. But for me, if this is the way I look at it, I won't even give you a second chance. If you are corrupt and dishonest and you charge me the gringo price, I'll never be back to your shop again. Never. Because if you're dishonest one time, how many other things are you dishonest in? If I bring my lawnmower over to your shop to get it repaired, will they do a good job or will they just do the bare minimum? Will they do something to it so I have to bring it back? So if someone gives me the gringo price, whether it's, fixing my car, anything, I will not be back, and I'll be sure to advertise for you in hopes that I can save other people the pain of getting the gringo price. But that is a great question. Okay.
Yeah, I don't like to haggle like that either. And I don't know the language. Well, I know it better now, but like when we were first here, I couldn't really argue with them, or so I did like you. I just walk away and buy it somewhere else, which gives them the impression, unfortunately, that we're kind of pushovers because we don't argue back or whatever.
Right. So anyway, so we were talking about some of the cons. So some of the cons, you're going to get overpriced, you're going to get the gringo price. What are some other cons about living on the beach or touristy areas?
Financial cons, or just in general?
Any cons?
Well, there's the concession, but
well, if you're living on a beach, you have a concession, and I don't know if that's really a con, but it is something that you got to haggle with, because you have to, or not haggle, but it's something that you got to deal with because you don't actually own the property. And so the government owns it. But hey, when you get a concession goes for a lot of years. I don't remember how many. Okay, so you do need to you got to deal with that. But one of the big cons, I think a lot of people immediately move to the beach and they don't realize how hot it is. Okay, and then they think, well, it ain't no big deal, just turn on the AC. And what they don't know is that electricity is extremely expensive in Costa Rica. We're in the United States, and I don't know about other countries. In the United States, the more electricity you use, the cheaper it gets. Not in Costa Rica. The less you use, the cheaper it is. The more you use, it gets even more and more expensive. Matter of fact,
per kilowatt. Whatever their measurement is.
Even businesses, you would think they would give businesses a deal or a break, but businesses have to pay way more money per kilowatt than do the private stores. I mean, housing. Public housing and stuff. So you have to know that ahead of time, that if you live on the beach, it's going to be very expensive with utilities, and it's just it's very, very hot. So people end up going to the beach, and then the mistake they make is that, dang, the mosquitoes on the beach and the prices, and it's hot, and then before you know it, they're leaving, and they're like, they're like, I wish I'd have never lived on the beach.
Yeah, we hear that a lot because it seems like idyllic, but after you've been there for a while, one of the other cons is the salt air. If you're living right on the beach, the salt air that comes in, even you have to have everything sealed and a dehumidifier, because if you want to live like we do, open air, we don't like to be closed up and running AC. And if you live open air on the beach, which we've lived several, like I'd say maybe in total, maybe a half a year to a year. Because it was like 3 different places.
Well, and I've lived 6 months by myself, because you was in another place. And, so I've lived over a year on the beach, so I've got the experience of living on the beach. And, the deal about, and I was renting in several places, and only had air conditioning in the bedroom. So, man, I was taking a shower like 3 or 4 times a day just to cool off, and just to get the, because you're walking around the beach and everything, and you just feel like you get this salt air stuck to you.
Yeah, and it's bad for your computer and for your vehicle.
Yeah. So those are a lot of cons. Okay, so those, like you said, bad for your computer, bad for your vehicles. So you got to be careful. But what are some of the pros about living on the beach?
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's almost like having your own private beach. If you love to surf, or if you want to surf fish, if you want to go fishing, it's great. If you're living on the beach, another pro is that you got lots of activities around. And, if you're the type of person that likes to chit chat with other gringos, okay, you can do that.
Yeah. And they'll have the beaches like Hermosa and on the Caribbean side, Puerto Viejo, there's surfing competitions. And so there's always there's volleyball.
And gringos will get together and do different things in different areas on the beaches and stuff. So it really is, there are a lot of pros if you like that gringo community.
There's a lot of little shops and a lot of restaurants and bars and all that kind of stuff. A lot of activity. on those popular areas.
So you can, so there are quite a few pros, okay? But it really is just, if you have the money, it's kind of like what Pam was saying earlier. If money is not an object, well, great. Go live on the beach, and just know that you're going to pay for it, okay? And then, of course, now one other big con that I forgot to tell you, and it's really important, okay? Big con. Write this down. If you're going to live on the beach, or if you're going to live anywhere where there's lots of ticos, expect crime to be higher than anywhere else, okay? And so I want you to stop and use your head here. Crime is not bad if you use common sense. Use common sense, blend in. Don't go walking out there by yourself, ladies, by yourself, and you carrying a $1,000 camera, okay? Not even your $1,000 iPhone, your purse, okay? Blend in with people, okay?
Well, even men. Remember
Even
that
men,
man was
okay?
killed for his camera.
Yeah, there was an older guy walking out there. He had a really nice camera, and he was killed for his camera because he wasn't giving it up. So if you have common sense, crime is not a problem. But keep this is the biggest con, is anytime. And look, if I'm a thief and I'm going fishing, well, I'm going to go fishing where there's more fish. So I'm going to go and rob people where there's a lot of tourists, because I've got a lot to choose from. It's easy pickings, okay? Where I live at, I never have to worry about crime. Matter of fact, we've been living in this location for 3 years, and we don't have any doors, don't have any windows, and don't have any locks.
We also look like we have nothing to steal.
That's right. We blend in very well. And I keep $1 million buried underneath my desk. Tomorrow, we might find a big hole here where you can deposit it. Anyway, so
I think we'd have our house built by now if we had $1 million. What you think?
I think so. So, and like Costa Rica Expat says, there's something special about living at the beach, because you're being so close to nature makes you appreciate some of the simpler things in life. And I kind of agree and disagree, but I have to agree, because the beach has its own set of nature. I find you get a whole lot more nature and a whole lot more wildlife, but it is a difference between night and day. When you're living on the beach and you're living in the mountains, it's night and day difference. I love to go to the beach. I love to walk on the beach. I love to surf upside down at the beach, because I can't stay on top. So, but you're absolutely right. It is really, really nice to be next to nature. And that's the best thing about being in Costa Rica. Now, let's talk about the city. Okay. So there are quite a few people that we know of that live in the city. Now, we personally never have lived in the city, don't want to live in the city, other than living there for a night or two at an Airbnb when we're traveling. That's just traveling. That's not living. So if you live in the city, I can immediately talk about some cons.
Right. And since we haven't lived there, it's just kind of stuff that when we're there,
we know that you would have to deal with it if you were living there.
Right. We're kind of like, no way. I can't wait to get out from this city.
For example, one of the biggest cons for me is why I would never be in the city is the traffic. The traffic is horrendous. You got to keep in mind that Costa Rica, it's not nearly as developed as it is in the United States. And so their main highway, remember when we came into Costa Rica, we were looking for the main international highway that travels from Nicaragua all the way to Panama. Main international highway. Kept looking. Where's the international highway? Where's it? We're only on this 2-lane road. Where's the international highway?
We were on the international highway.
We was on the international highway. 2-lane road, no shoulders.
And we're like, this is the international highway? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So you need to know that the traffic is going to be a nightmare. And that's like 24/7. You got to deal with the tolls all the time. And crime is, in San Jose, crime in general is pretty bad. But you got to keep in mind, most crimes all over Costa Rica, most crime is petty theft, okay? And that's because you just left stuff out. So that's just something that you need to think about, okay? And so if you live in the city, or really if you live anywhere, I'm glad that Randy brought this up. My concern is leaving for 1 to 3 months and still have a home to come back to. No, Randy, if you leave for 1 to 3 months, you probably are not going to have a home to come back to. That ain't even funny. Okay. Because in Costa Rica, that's why if you leave for a couple of weeks, you better have your neighbor watching it. When we leave, if we're leaving for a week, we have our neighbor watch our place. House sitting. Look, you can get someone to house sit your place. So put your house, you're going to be gone 1 to 3 months. Put your place on a house sitting site and let someone come and house sit your house. And you can literally lock up everything that you want and give them a room. And so you have someone house sitting in your place and they're living there, for free or paying the utilities. So Randy, it's very, very important. We have seen a number of houses that, look, the person left. And when he came back, they had already started tearing down the roof. They had already broke into the house the first week, okay? And then they started tearing down the roof. And, hey, look, the Tico down the street needed some new metal for his house, and he got it from you because it was cheap. So, it's very, very important, and that is a very important fact, okay? Now, so the biggest con for me living in the city is the traffic. What are some other cons that living in the city? Prices in the city are usually going to be a little more expensive than in other places, and it's just because it's a city. Okay, so and just the fact that you don't really have much of a yard in the city is a con.
Yeah, for me, there's not a lot of, I like the trees and the nature in the city. Of course, like any city, it's a lot of concrete, a lot of buildings, a lot of congestion of people and cars, and so I just don't like that.
Yeah. Now, Evelina brought up a good question and said, you said everything is more expensive. Are you still able to get affordable staff? Absolutely. Everything is more expensive in the touristy areas. It's going to be a little bit more expensive in the San Jose City metropolitan area. Now, and so a lot of the locals that are living in remote areas will move to San Jose because they can make more money. Okay, so yes, you can still get affordable staff, but it's not going to be nearly as cheap as it is maybe in other places. But keep in mind, Costa Rica has a website you could go to, and here's the normal pay rate. This is the normal minimum wage that you can pay people. So while it's very, very easy to get cheap and affordable staff working for you, in most places in Costa Rica, you can still get them in San Jose or in the tourist areas. But in the touristy areas, they are used to getting paid more than the minimum. So it might be harder to find someone working for you. And so, matter of fact, whenever I was living on Playa Hermosa, or it's Hermosa Calle, that's one place we'll have to talk about another time. But there was so many gringos there. And the Ticos walking down there would all wave, and they were all hoping to get a job. And that's because so many gringos would hire people. Now, and they're just used to paying a little more than the extra. Because, hey, it was a competition. If you wanted someone good to work for you, you're going to pay them a little extra to keep them. So but it's still, in comparison to the United States, you can get affordable help, staff, easy in Costa Rica, anywhere, regardless of where you live at. That's just my opinion, okay?
Be sure to educate yourself about the laws and the rules for staff.
Yeah.
Just because you pay them cash, they have rules.
You do have to be very, very careful, because when you employ someone full time, and this is a topic for another session, you are supposed to pay their caja. So you want to be very, very careful, because you can get some serious trouble. So anyway, let's talk about, those are some of the cons, but let's talk about some of the pros of living in the city. One of the pros of living in the city is that there's more things to do. Because if you haven't been here, there's not a lot of stuff to do in Costa Rica. In the United States, you want to do something, go to a theater, go play putt-putt, go all kind of craziness. But in Costa Rica
offers a lot of natural things.
So there's not a lot of stuff to do. But in San Jose, the metropolitan area, there are a few museums. There are a few little theaters. There are some things. Now,
there are malls.
In about a week, you would have done them all. Okay.
Malls, tons of restaurants.
Yeah, lots and lots of restaurants. So, Rebecca, she would probably go try every single restaurant. Okay. So, but in about 2 weeks' time, you could have done all of the extracurricular activities and museums and things like that. Okay. Just no matter where you are in Costa Rica, if you're a person that you love to party or you love to go do things, don't come to Costa Rica unless you're just going to do a lot of nature things. Lots and lots of nature things to do. You got to love nature to come to Costa Rica, okay? And of course, now Costa Rica Expect says, hey, living in San Jose gives you easy access to both coast and mountains, making a weekend getaway a breeze. And that's a very, very good point.
Right.
Because lots of people in San Jose, they will, on the weekend, go down to Jaco, which makes it jam-packed. So, you know, but you're right. It's about Jaco, about from San Jose to Jaco, I think it's about
hour and a half. I think
you can safely get there 2 hours, hour and a half. You know, if you got no problems with traffic. Yeah. But anyway.
Well, and another pro of like San Jose and the surrounding, the metropolitan area, the altitude, the temperatures are fabulous.
Because San Jose is up on the mountains,
they
like
call
you
it
said,
Central Valley, but it's
not a valley at all.
Right.
That Central Valley is up high in altitude. A matter of fact,
There's
I want to say it's
breeze.
around 3,000 to 3,500 feet. So and some areas a lot higher. So it's really cool. And you could actually live 15 to 30 minutes away, 15, 20 minutes away from the city. So you're not dab smack in the city, still have yard and stuff. But all those lots are going to be really, really expensive. Okay.
Yeah. And you're close to lots of conveniences.
Lots of conveniences,
yeah.
You know,
and hospitals and doctors and dentists and a selection.
And
almost
you're close
every
to the airport.
Very close to the airport, and you know every little town has. You're not that far from a dentist, but it might just be one, or you're not that far from a doctor, but just one. But in San Jose, there's medical plazas that have very specialized doctors and entire hospitals that are private doctors, and you know, so yeah,
all kind of great. Now I see a question here that I missed. Right here, Diana says, hey, can you post links to any of the house sitting sites you trust below this video? I'm going to try to remember to do that. What would help me greatly is that when this video is over, if I didn't answer your question, then underneath the video in the comments, be sure to put it down, because I won't see these comments again and I'll just forget about it. So after this video is over, then please put that in the comments so that I look at every comment. I will see it and I'll be like, oh yeah, let me get those links and let me post those links for the house sitting site. So do me a favor, Diana, you do that and I'll be sure to post those for you, okay? And look, those house sitting sites, you know, they're all over the place. You know, Costa Rica, you can go all over the world on these house sitting sites. So it really is a great, great place, a great resource for you to use. Okay.
Yes. If you're free to travel and you have money to, like, you know, do your tickets, man, Europe, there's lots of places.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of looking at some of the comments here. So that's a lot of the pros and cons of the mountains. But hey, I see we already get about 15 minutes left.
You said city.
Of the city.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the pros and cons of the mountain areas. Now, if you guys hadn't already figured it out, our favorite place has always been the mountains. Matter of fact, we used to sit at our house in Louisiana, and I had built this nice, beautiful aquatic pond. I had collected rocks from all over the place when I was trucking, and I built a waterfall. And we had this little, 4-foot waterfall, and it was going into the pond. And we used to sit there, and we would look up at the trees and the clouds, and it would sometimes look like mountains. And we'd say, one day we're gonna look at the mountains from our backyard, real mountains. And here we are today looking at beautiful, beautiful mountain views. So we absolutely love the mountains. And while I like the beach, I don't want to live on the beach. We want to go down to the beach, enjoy a good meal, maybe walk on the beach, maybe walk on the surf, and then come back. And Costa Rica is so small, you can live almost anywhere and be just an hour, 2 hours away from the beach and get to enjoy both the beach and the mountains. But the mountains, if you find the right place, you can find some really amazing, cool temperatures. And you can find a lot of places just like this where you don't have to be super remote and still have wildlife, still have monkeys, still have, animals in your yard. And that is just really neat.
Yeah. I find that, Costa Rica tends to be elongated. It's long and narrow in shape. And so the middle of the country is almost all mountainous, mountains and valleys, but even the valleys in the middle, like we were saying, Central Valley is still elevated. So you got the center mountains, and then everything drops down, kind of flattens out, and then goes out to the beaches. In some locations, like on the Caribbean side, like around Puerto Viejo, by Margaritaville, all of that, the mountains are close in proximity to the beaches. So in a very short period of time, you're gaining altitude as you drive inland. Same thing with Dominical. The mountains behind,
really
like
close to the
inland,
beach.
right by Dominical and Dominicalita, and going a little bit further down toward Uvita, the mountain ranges are really close.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of condominiums and apartment complexes
On those really close mountain ranges.
gated
right?
houses, private houses. People, you look up on the cliffs and it's full of mansions up there.
Yeah.
But that would be a pretty place, to, like, if you didn't mind, because the temperatures aren't as cool as, of course, the altitude that we have here, but it's a lot cooler than being on the beach, and you're really close to the beach, and it's really beautiful because it's still very wooded, a lot of waterfalls and stuff like that. Same thing on the Caribbean side. But then you have places where you have to go way inland from the beach, from the coast, to start getting some altitude. And a lot of that area is being formed.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of cattle, a lot of crops, rice and sugarcane, and all those different things. So
let's talk about some of the cons of living in the mountains.
Well, when you're inland like that, if you have to go far inland like we are, it's a con is the
travel
drive.
time, huh?
Yeah, the drive to
if we're going to go to the
any
hospital,
kind of city.
And we're a long ways, but even if you're not, because there's a lot of places around the Paris Zeledon area that you can be in the mountains, but still, if you're in those mountains, even though you're not far from San Isidro, it could still be a 30 or 45-minute, even an hour drive to the hospital. But it's well worth it if you're not somebody with a lot of medical issues and you don't anticipate having to go a whole lot. Mm-hmm. So that's probably one of the biggest cons, is that you're almost always going to need a four-wheel drive if you're going to live in the mountains. Mm-hmm. Okay. And while it's very, very beautiful, the roads aren't going to be the best. You're going to be on some pretty rough roads. You might have to
traffic. No trash pickup.
No trash pickup.
Yeah.
You might have to cross a river. We have to cross a river every single time that we go in and out of our place. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes the river could be overwhelming. And only once in the 3 years that we've been here has the river been so high that I've had to wait about 30 minutes for it to go down for us to cross. Okay. So let's see, what are some other cons of living in the mountains other than the travel time?
To me, that's all.
Yeah, there's not a lot of cons to living in the mountains. Depending on where you're at.
Now you're far away from any kind of activity.
The
mountain towns, whatever, the little communities, there's not a whole lot to them unless you go like out towards San Vito. That is a mountainous community, and it is the center of that. What do they call it? Province. It's the center, and so it has a lot of stores and stuff like that, but it's still not as developed.
And of course, Evelina says, are you cold at night? Yes, we get cold at night. Matter of fact, I had my jacket on because I wasn't moving around a whole lot. And of course, I took it off while we were on the air. And of course, I move around a lot when I talk.
You work up a sweat.
I work up a sweat anyway. So, but it does get cold here at nighttime. At here, it has the coldest it's gotten has been 59 degrees. So it's really perfect because, and so that's, we're higher than most people. We're at 4,500 feet in elevation. Okay. So not a whole lot of people are going to live higher than that, in my opinion. there are some places, you know, when you're going in between San Isidro to San Jose, but there's not a lot of people living on those mountain ranges. So
Right. In fact, the altitude's so high on that road
that there's
that
no big trees.
There's no big trees, right?
Mhm.
It's that high in elevation.
Yeah.
And it's really freezing. Like when we travel, I've said this in other videos, how when we travel, we have a blanket in the car.
Yeah,
because
it gets cold
it
in the
gets
car.
cold.
You know, and so and one of the other cons is that if you're living in the mountains and you're wanting to plant a garden, there's going to be some things you can't grow. Like we love mamons. Mamons is those furry little things that look like they're from another world. I mean, but they're great little fruits. They got a little grape on the inside is what it looks like. And it's not that much stuff, but there's some things that you're just not going to grow at this altitude, okay?
Right.
But
or
hey, as
the
a
tree or the
garden,
bush will grow, but then it won't produce the
right, won't produce the fruit, you know. But there's not a whole lot of cons, in my opinion. So let's talk about some of the positives. Obviously, some of the positives is that you enjoy the peace and tranquility. You're not around all of the noise, the motorcycles. The crime is almost non-existent in most mountainous areas, and that's simply because in a lot of the mountainous areas, it's one way in, one way out. The only time there's really going to be crime is if you're gone for the weekend, you're gone for the week, and your maid tells their neighbor you're gone for the weekend. It's usually an inside job.
Now we're saying mountainous, but we're meaning remote mountainous.
Yeah, remote mountainous
because
areas. Yeah.
Like we've talked before, San Jose. San Jose is a high. You know, it's in the mountains. The San Isidro's in the mountains, San Vito's in the mountains. Those are all cities that do have some issues with theft, but they are still in the mountains.
But yeah, and most of the theft is going to be petty theft. Like Janice says, mountains are far away in medical emergencies. And so, yes, you're absolutely right. Almost all of the mountainous areas are far away from medical emergency, but there's usually a clinic not too far away. But a lot of times, if you do have a medical emergency, they might get you to a clinic to stabilize you and then move you to a city where there's an actual hospital. So those are things to take in consideration. So I'm glad you put that up there, Janice.
You pretty much have to have a vehicle. Yeah, because there's not public transportation. Either that or you have to pay for a cab or.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in a lot of the mountainous areas, you can normally, you might have to walk a mile, but because you'll be amazed at the buses that are traveling in the mountains on gravel roads, okay, but you might have to walk to that location because they're going to only be on the main roads. So if you're living in a remote area like we're not even close to any of the main roads, you know, you're going to have your own transportation for sure.
Yeah, Diana's Sky says
right here.
Yeah, if you hike Mount Cherpo, it gets below freezing. Yeah, there's ice up there.
Yeah, so there's not many places like that. Matter of fact, Mount Cherpo is probably the only place where you're going to run into ice, and it can get really cold. But it's just like the path between San Isidro to San Jose, that mountain pass. You know, that's called Death Mountain, and it's called Death Mountain because years ago people used to travel hiking back and forth, and they would die of hypothermia. Okay, so it would get cold. It wouldn't be ice, but hey, it's cold enough that you could die from it. So, but mountainous have always been some of our favorite places. And so anyway, I can't believe the hour is almost up. But hey, I'm going to quickly look at some of the questions here, okay?
Yeah. And if money wasn't an issue, I'd have a house on the beach, a house in the city, and a house in the mountains.
Yeah, and of course, you know, Evelina asked, you know, hey, are we living close to that mountain pass? And no, we don't live close to that mountain pass. We're a long ways from there. Okay. But anyway, but we just got through talking about that. Okay. But yeah, a lot of people did die up that way.
So many people died that they ended up building little cabins.
Yeah.
With wood.
Now, Fat Cat, go ahead.
With wood for the travelers so that they'd have a place, and you know, everybody kind of knew
where these little shacks were at, so they could get out the weather, right?
Right.
Now, Fat Cat said, would antennas be considered when is the mountain towns that you're talking about? Yes. So in that area, I wouldn't consider that mountain town, even though it is higher in elevation. It's more considered of the touristy areas now, and that place is becoming more and more popular. So hey, look, the antennas area. that's a very, very touristy area. You're going to spend a lot of money, but it is higher in elevation. Okay.
You
And
find it's touristy? I think it's mostly gringos that live there. I don't know of any
well, I mean, the
tourist
whole reason
activities.
the reason it's popular is because Antennas, they have the volcano right there. They have that humongous lake right there. And look,
Oh, is that where Lake Arenal and all that is? Is it? I
well,
thought
I
they
might be
talking.
wrong,
I
but
think
Antennas, yeah, I'm almost. You know what? I just won't say nothing because I could be. You got me thinking now. I could be completely wrong on that, and I don't want to give out any misinformation. But if I
I'm
remember
thinking
right,
that he's talking, or he or she is talking about the suburbs, like the surrounding, kind of like Kiribati and
uh-huh.
what else is there right there?
So
But
I'm
if
gonna quickly look at some of these questions here. Okay. And Fat Cat says, don't forget about those house sitting websites. Absolutely. And you know, Diana said that she stayed in a guest house near Santa Maria, the Dita, and the owners lit a fireplace in the evening. It was brisk but not cold, sweater only. And that's what the weather is where we're at. You know,
I
it's
say
really
spring every morning and fall every evening,
and
because
summer at about 12 o'clock.
right, but not hot summer.
But not hot summer. And it's only hot if you're going to be in the sun, right? So it's perfect weather, right? Where we're at, I think we have the most perfect weather around.
But there's lots of places in Costa Rica that have a really, really great temperature. And
so, and you know, I kind of agree with Eduardo. He says the best thing about Costa Rica is a nice cold cerveza. I agree with you. So the next time you see me, just buy one for me and you. So, hey, there's lots of great reasons to live all over Costa Rica, but it's really important that you do your research, because, you know, there's a lot of channels. They're not going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's really important to understand, because a lot of people make the mistake of going to the most popular places out there. And then, you know, they end up saying why they left, and they're leaving for some of the silliest reasons. It's expensive. And they are thinking that all of Costa Rica is expensive. Well, it's expensive because you move to a touristy area where everything is crazy high. So, you know, those are things you need to think about. Okay.
I see. That's what I was trying to think of. Cartago. I think that Etna's he's talking about is like by what they call the metropolitan areas.
Yeah. See. So, and of course, you know, Brandon says, what are your thoughts on Cartago? What's it? Yes. Is it Cartago? And I'm trying to learn how to pronounce things right. And, you know, that's in that San Jose and metropolitan area, you know, and for us, Cartago is one of the first cities that we get into when we're on the way to San Jose. And for me, everything that is in that San Jose and metropolitan area, yeah, there's Cartago, Heredia,
Alajuela,
Cordoba, yeah, Cordoba. There's all that, and you know, all of that is in the city. And but you know, if you go like over to Cartago, well, you're still
to us, it's still the city.
It's still the city to us. But and you still got to travel from there. I think 30 minutes, 45 minutes just to get to the airport. Okay. So anyway, but those are lots of different places to live, and except Cartago, you can find lots where it's not, you know, a tiny little place and you can have land, but it is going to be very, very expensive in that area. Okay. So, so anyway, any last minute questions about location before we call it a day? So we like to try to keep it as close to an hour as possible. But hey, we always have fun, and we always like to say, hey, make sure that after this video is over, make sure to put in comments underneath, like, subscribe, share. You can really help get the information out there so that we can help more and more people. Okay, so hey, let's take a quick look. See, so I think that's it. I don't think there's any other questions in there. So hey, folks.
Yeah, see, Costa Rica for Expats is talking a little bit about Cartago. when the area of that we pass through is still city, but of course there's all that
There's a lot of
subdivision, like
mhm.
housing,
Yeah, and of course,
residential
yeah, he's
areas.
saying that the pace of life Cartago is like a slow moving river. It's not nearly like San Jose, peaceful and steady, but it might feel too quiet for those that's used to the hustle and bustle of the big city. But if you're coming, even if you're coming from a big city in the United States, San Jose is going to feel slow for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's not nearly as big. And so now Doug mentions, because someone had asked, yeah, there are active volcanoes in Costa Rica, and he says that Poas had activity when he was there earlier this year. So hey, folks, we greatly appreciate you. Do you? And Evelina says, do you have a blog with FAQ and your life experience there? I do not. We've been super busy trying to get things built, but I'm hoping that in the near future, once we get moved into our house, then I might have time to actually put some of that stuff out there. But hey, we do all of this stuff for free. We don't make money doing all of this. And so, hey, here's what we do have that would help you tremendously. There's 3 ways that you can really contact us. Number 1 is be right here on the lives, and we're answering your question. Number 2, you can always join our members only community. Hey, it's $10 a month. You can cancel anytime you want. 33 cents a day, to where you can chat with me, chat with Rebecca. You want to ask those personal women questions, you can do that. And so you can ask whatever questions you want in that members area, and that's where I'm at all the time, answering questions 24/7. Man, extremely valuable place, because you might be thinking, well, hey, I wish I could ask Alan. I wish I could ask Rebecca. Go to the members only area, and there's lots and lots of questions in there. You can scan through, spend the whole day, and get all kind of answers to questions that you might have. So I hope that helped you. And of course, lastly, and we never push all of this stuff, because we do this for free. We give all this information away, but you know what? Time is money. If you don't have time to go through all of the videos that we have, you can always schedule a phone consultation with us. Schedule a phone consultation with Rebecca, and go to our calendar, schedule it, and then we'll talk to you and answer any questions and help you get a good game plan before you move to Costa Rica, where we can always give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, we'll talk at you next time. See you, folks.